So, hello, happy Tuesday, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Today, we are looking at wellness at work and exactly what that means to stay healthy, on point, and top of your game. Because often it's easy to let things slip when we get busy and wrapped up in the to-dos of the day. So, if you are tuning in from around the world, let me know where you are. I'm going to check, as always, that we're streaming through okay, because there's nothing worse than me sitting talking to you all but you're not here with me. So I'm just going to mute myself on here. Oh, sorry about that. One pause. It is coming through. Sorry. I do know sometimes the StreamYard does have issues, so I did want to make sure I got it up because if there are any comments that come through, it doesn't always give me them. So I wanted to make sure I'm with you. Okay. So, like I said, we're talking about wellness at work. So if anything resonates with you or you connect with it today, obviously let us know, share your thoughts and experience because obviously this is what I do, but of course we're all here to share each other's journey. So wellness at work, because often we kind of see work as this thing we've got to do. And yeah, we need to work. Okay. So, unless you're someone who's got money coming in from other sources, generally speaking, it gives you that financial support or freedom, right? Now, it also gives you social connection, allows you the intellectual development. So, like we were talking the other week about the 8 dimensions of wellness, then of course, there are several parts that come into this. If you missed that, do hit back. If you want to know more, then of course, let me know and I'll share some more on the 8 dimensions. But we get a little bit of everything from being in the workplace. Okay. So, when we're at work, we need to actually maintain our peak because ultimately, if you're somebody who's building their career, building their way up the ladder, developing in some way, then of course you want to be top of your game every single day. You don't want to let your eye off the prize or the end goal, right? You're somebody who basically you're pushing and pushing and pushing because you want the best, you want the results, and you want to feel like it's actually achieved and then keep going, right? However, the best results we get are when we are our best, and that takes us taking care of ourselves, right? So it's like this never-ending cycle. Unless you take care of yourself, you're never going to be your best. But unless you perform your best, then you're never going to push your best. So it's kind of like a circle. Does that make sense? So let me check this is all come through. Yeah, all on there. That's good. So okay, so I'm on YouTube as well, guys. So if you are over there as well, obviously great to have you. Awesome to be with you this afternoon. Okay, this is actually something that's actually kind of a luxury that we've got these days, but tech is great. Okay, but that's not what we're here for. Okay, so wellness at work, right? So, are you someone who goes to work and comes home feeling really, really tired? Because that's when you're feeling like you've pushed and pushed and pushed and you've sort of emptied your cup. So, if we use the analogy of a full cup, empty cup, then of course it can make you feel like you're depleted and you haven't got the energy for your family to maybe be social. And there's nothing worse than that. Or maybe you're going into meeting to meeting to meeting and something feels like you're just going through the cogs and you're just doing everything you can to keep up. Does that resonate? Because often we do, particularly if we're trying to appease everyone. But there are little things that we can do to stay healthy, to stay performing top of our game. That's, like I said, I'm going to keep saying that, performing top of our game, because that's where we want to be. But also so that you finish the day and you kind of go, I feel great and I want to spend time with my family. I want to go catch up with my friends for dinner. I want to do something more. Okay. You don't feel like I'm being sucked up by work, because there's nothing worse than that, because that's when life is out of alignment. I often hear work-life balance. Let's look at alignment. So we're getting everything we want. Okay. Now, what are the things we can do? Well, firstly, you're not going to suddenly scrap all meetings in a day. We know that's not going to happen. Or you're not going to suddenly not have that project and that deadline. That's not going to happen. Okay. We are going to still have these things in our lives. Now, they may be stressful. They may push us. They may be challenging. You may think, I wish I didn't have deadlines. Okay. But they're not going to disappear. Unfortunately, that is part of our lives. Okay. So I'm just getting that straight from the minute off. We're not looking at suddenly changing everything, but we're going to change the way we look at it and the little things we do so that we manage it to the best of our ability. Okay. So that means we're put in a solid input in, and it doesn't matter what else goes on around us. Okay. Now, the reason I say about deadlines and things like this, because a deadline could be as simple as opening the building. Okay. So maybe you run a restaurant, maybe you run a gym or something like that. You have to open at a certain point of time, just like if you're doing an exercise class. Even if you're doing it for fun and for leisure, you expect when you turn up that you're going to do that class at that time, or whatever it is. Say you book a table in a restaurant, you expect that when you turn up, say it's 6 o'clock, that table is ready for you. Okay. Your deadlines for your projects are exactly the same. That expectation that is completed on time. But often we can either see them something different, bigger, less, or something that doesn't quite align. Okay. But those deadlines are still going to be there. And in fact, some of those can have a bigger impact than whether your table is late for dinner. Okay. Now, what can we do? Because this is the more important things. Is these things are in our lives. So what can we actually do? Now, first things first. One, let's not try and fight these things. Okay. When we fight things, we create resistance. Okay. So rather than thinking about this is wrong, and making excuses, or like I said, that fighting mentality, then of course, let's look at things that we can do to make them easier. Okay. Now, a little thing that we can do, say if you're somebody who has a lot of meetings. Now, maybe you can look at the timings of your meetings. Do you have a 5-minute break between them? If your meetings are an hour long, are you taking time to stand up in the middle? Are you encouraging others to? Or are you sitting there absolutely still not doing anything? Okay, or not doing anything, but trying to partake in the meeting, but finding yourself zoning out and switching out. Okay, so first thing we can do is look at the timings of our meetings. Okay, so you can give yourself time for that toilet break, to grab some water and things like that during your day. Now, that may seem like irrelevant stuff, but actually having a glass of water, maybe just a leg stretch, can actually significantly change your energy over the day. So it may seem like it's a small thing, but that's a small thing that can create a big difference. The other thing I mentioned just then was standing up. So if you have a longer meeting, giving yourself chance to stand up, because if you sit down for extended periods of time, then of course maybe you can get stiff backs, soreness. It can block blood flow within the body. Now, I've said this before in one of my other lives, but if your body moves, your mind does too. So body grooves, so does mind. Body moves, so does mind. Okay, so the two go hand in hand. So if you're sitting in a seated position the whole time and blood flow isn't going around, then how can you expect it to go up the body to your brain and give your brain the extra blood it needs to think creatively and all that sort of stuff, right? You want to have your brain on point. And if you sit down, your heart rate will slow down, your body slows down. So what you want to do is get up, because it eases stiffness in the body, but also gets your blood flowing and helps you to think. So actually can stimulate good stuff that we want to be doing, right? The other reason for doing it is actually it allows us to take a break, because often we can get this sort of tunnel vision. So we can become so honed in and sort of boxed into what we're doing that you can kind of sort of switch off from everything else. So you can forget, oh yeah, my back's getting stiff, or oh yeah, I was thinking about this. Or even you just get so narrow in your thinking that you can't see the solution for the problem, even if it's right in front of you. Now, that may seem like kind of like, well, no, that doesn't happen, but it can happen more often than we think. Now, I'll give you an example of where this happened to me in a big scenario. So, I was at the World Championships. I was 15 years old. I was in Seoul in South Korea. Now, obviously, I was fencing. It was sports. Okay, so you might go, okay, that's different, but no, it's not. The difference is the surroundings and the environment. The mindset and the mentality is very much the same. So, I was preparing for my fight. I got warmed up with everybody else, but of course I was last. So maybe you're in the meeting and you've got to present last. Maybe your deadline's the end of the day and you start the day preparing. That's what I mean, how it's transferable. But what I did is I prepared, I got warm, obviously got into my fight. It was very evenly matched. Like I said, it was for the last 32. I was number 32, she was number 33. So it wasn't exactly like I was against someone really high up, or it was really offset, right? But at the end of it, I started honing in. I stopped hearing the noise of people around me. I could hear there was stuff, but it all sounded so muffled. It sounded like it was like far away from me, even though the screaming was probably like 3 to 5 meters away from me. I sort of forgot what I was doing. It was like I went on autopilot. Like my body literally just went, and we just do this. And oh yeah, she did that. So we do that again. And it's like I couldn't think of an alternative thing to do. And what we'd both done, in fact, is we were just passing and just repeating each other. This is why it wasn't going very far. And then all of a sudden, she realized. So I actually lost the fight because my mind couldn't see what else she was doing. I had become so narrow and focused that I continually did the same thing. I saw it wasn't working, but I kept doing it. Right? And then eventually I lost the fight. I came number 33. So again, still impressive. 33 in the world, that'll do. But what happens is we take that into our meetings, to our deadlines. We maybe start early, maybe our presentations in the afternoon. We start preparing, but we get so wrapped up in what we're doing that we lose the ability to see anything but sort of that pinpoint. So when we get on the spot, we get doing that presentation, someone throws a question our way, the ums, the ahs, the I don't know, I'll have to get back to you, come up, rather than us being able to think on point and in that moment. So what we want to be doing is taking those little breaks, giving ourselves a mental reset. So I've said about how to do them in a meeting. The other things we can do during the day is actually the things we do for taking breaks with our tasks. So stepping away from your computer. If you're somebody who spends hours on the computer doing projects, meetings, whether it's Zooms, Teams, all this sort of stuff, how often do you take a screen break? How often do you step away and actually just don't do anything? Often when we take a break away, is to go and have a conversation about what we're just doing. Or we go into a meeting where we're speaking with other people about something else we're doing. Give yourself a mental break. So allow yourself just to sort of let go of clutter. Okay. So this is why breath work and meditation is so helpful. But if you're on a busy day, that can be tough. But even just taking a step away from the screen, going to fill your water bottle or maybe another tea or coffee, and then just taking a few deep breaths and allowing yourself just to focus on that rather than everything else. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So when we're looking at wellness at work, like these things, you notice how they're really simple. You're probably thinking that sounds so obvious. And that's kind of the point, okay? Because well-being is not about another thing on the to-do list. It is the lifestyle, the little actions you take. So there's examples there. The meeting, look at your meeting times. Taking a standing break from your seat, especially at least once an hour. So if you've got a long meeting, then of course, or you're doing a project and you're really wrapped up in it, get to a point where you can stand, step up, and just move, okay? Giving yourself the mental break, so allowing yourself a chance to reset. This is why having a lunch break away from your computer and your desk is so crucial, because it gives you that step away, allows you to eat something good, but also gives you that sort of, like I said, decluttering of the mind. Now, I've just mentioned there about food briefly, but of course, food and hydration are so important. I've mentioned water a couple of times. If anyone's picked up on that, good job, because staying hydrated is so important. Often we reach for that extra cup of coffee because we're like, I'm getting tired, I'm feeling lethargic. But often even a glass of water can actually help us feel a bit better, more energized, okay? Especially if you're in your office, it's air conditioning, false heating, all those sorts of environments. You can actually feel sort of a bit sluggish and all that sort of thing. I mean, someone laughed at me the other day because I was going out and it was raining and I was going out with my umbrella and she's like, it's the horrible out there. And I was like, yeah, I need some fresh air, because I knew I was feeling, as soon as I literally walked around the building. I didn't go far, but I just had to walk around the building and it was so lovely. Like this 10-15 minutes, just walking around the building, that fresh air gave me such a break. And water does the same sort of thing. So rather than having to think, I need a cup of coffee, I need something, to stimulate my alertness, actually the simple things like a glass of water or even stepping outside and getting some fresh air can do wonders. The other thing I mentioned is food, because I'm trying to make sure I hit everything here, guys. So hopefully this is you're all with me and this is all making sense. Do let me know if it's not or there's anything you want further on. But the food we eat, because often we can eat, say, a heavy meal or things that make us feel sluggish. But that's why fruit and snacks are very important. Now, often we also say, if I'm busy in the evening, I haven't got time to prepare my lunch. I haven't got time for this. I'm just going to buy lunch at work. But you still have time for snacks. Okay. So snacks can be, I have a little tub and I take some cashew nuts. Okay. So I've got a bag of cashews, I've got some little tubs, and I just put them in and I take them with me to work. So I also have done grapes at times because, again, they're quite easy. You can just pull a few out the punnet, put them in a little tub, carry them to work. I don't tend to take like apples. I know some people that may be for you, simply because I've got retainers. I had braces not so long ago, so I don't do that. But if an apple works for you, put an apple in your bag, or banana, something like that. Something that's very easy for you to enjoy, but that isn't sort of full of sugars or full of stuff that's going to give you a spike and a drop. Okay, so yes, we've got natural sugars in fruit before anybody gets on that. But again, it's a slightly different nutritional value. So again, you'll find it much lighter on the body and actually will generally give you the sort of little bit of goodness that you want, but without making you feel slow and sluggish and slowing you down. Okay. So the other thing that we want to be doing, okay, I'm actually going to mention about being social. Okay. Right? Yeah, social. Let's be social at work because your well-being is on many levels. So we talk about the emotional, the mental, and the physical. Now, the physical is that nutrition, that moving your body, making sure you're hydrated. So those sorts of things. The mental is taking those screen breaks, allowing a chance to reset, take the break, and of course, the managing your to-do list, your productivity, hitting the deadlines, doing things in order. Okay, having a system that works for you. Okay, so you're not chasing your own tail. So that's the mental, but our emotional needs it too. Now, when I say being social at work, we should probably say, actually, I'm always in meetings. I'm always talking to someone. I've got pings up. I can see, I've got messages. Is it Juan? Has jumped in that. That's great. I know there's people there and we're connecting. So feel like this is our conversation. I am speaking to you right now. I know you are listening to me and I'm having one of my babble moments. Okay. But that's what we're there for. Okay. So when we go to work, it's not just about whether we're in meetings, whether we're getting work done. Chat to your colleagues. Take a break away. When you're going to get water, ask someone in the desk, say, would you like to come for some water too? Take a walk. Oh, how's it going? How's the kids? Did you have a good night last night? Those sorts of things. If you know someone plays tennis, football, or there's something going on. So I know some of the guys at work, what they do is they get together and have a little kick around once a week. That's great. So I ask them, are you playing tonight? Okay. If you know someone's got a specific interest, then it can actually help you deepen a connection. But also, if you're going for water and you're by yourself, smile at someone if they walk nearby. I'm always talking to the cleaners and that because they come near. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Having a good day? And they're like, oh, yeah, thanks. And they don't always expect it because I don't work directly with them, but I consider them part of my work environment. So I'll always stop for a moment to say hello, just to take a break. And also, that then feels good for them and, of course, allows them the break as well. Now, social connection is so important because we actually need that as human beings. Like I said, it's the emotional side. But notice the conversations I said, not work. Allow yourself, again, taking in the mental, the decluttering to give yourself the break. Okay? But often as well, what we tend to do, so this is where it goes wrong. So is this you? Are you someone who holds on, doesn't want to take the break, pushes through? I've got this deadline. I have to do this. If I let go, I'm a failure. Excuse me. Then we've all been there. At some point, we've just pushed because we're like, I have to do this. I have to do this. The one thing that I tell you I've learned is a good night's sleep is priceless. There is always time to take a few moments break to come back feeling refreshed with increased concentration. In fact, short periods of focus time where you're really in depth with what you're doing without distractions, without the phone, without whatever going on can actually be much more valuable than you to push through for several hours. Okay. So sometimes it's a case of what I tend to do is I'll do this task, then I'll have a break. Then I'll do this bit of the task and have. So if it's a big task and I've broken it down into say 3 or 4, then at the end of each one, I'll try and take a break. Okay, so whether it is just standing up in my seat just to move, or whether it is going for some water or the toilet break or whatever it is. And then when I come back, I'm like, right now, what's next? Okay, so it's that sort of bit of a focus. And in fact, my phones, I leave them in my bag when I'm at work, or if I'm sat at home like I am now, working it from home, then of course it's down, face down on my desk if I'm actually doing some concentrating work. But like while I'm here, obviously I checked that it was coming through, so obviously it's in front of me right now. So, all right. But guys, your wellness at work, how to stay healthy in the office, is up to you to be disciplined. Okay, you have a look at your day. So this is how we're going to go through it. Okay, because it's one thing. Oh, that's the desk. One thing me to tell you. Okay, you need to drink more. You need to do this. You need to take a look at the day. Okay, start with having a reflection on you, how you operate in terms of your work in life. Do you go from meeting to meeting to meeting? And is it going to be a case if you're going to give yourself a few minutes break between each meeting to have that valuable water break, leg stretch, toilets? Okay. Is it the case of you can actually start being just taking 5 minutes? That's all it takes. 5 minutes of consciousness the night before to prepare a couple of little tubs for snacks. Okay, you may have to think when you go shopping, do I need nuts? Do I need grapes? Or whatever it is you would like as your snack. Then you can do it the night before and put it ready in your bag or in the fridge or whichever. Then, or is it something like you're looking at how you manage your workload? So actually say, actually, I'm going to break it down to small tasks to give myself little breaks, and I'm going to do more focused time, but for shorter periods. Is that what's going to work? Remember, wellness is on all these different levels. So you want to be hitting those deadlines and you want to be ahead of time, but you also want to be performing at your optimal, not pushing through. So take the time, look at your day, see exactly how you operate. Is it your meetings more morning or the afternoon? If you're working into the evening, because sometimes we do, maybe you can take a longer lunch break, or maybe you can have a little break in the morning or start later in the morning to spend some time with your kids. Okay, so we have these ways of sort of splitting things, and have a look and see where you go, okay, where am I feeling the most pressure? Because when we're feeling the pressure, that's the bit that's going to pull the other bits down. So we start on the bit that's giving us the most pressure, and we look at how to make it work for us in a much better way. So again, like I say, there's little breaks, screen breaks. Are you taking notes? So I always have, in fact, I've got several. So I have notebook and pens, okay? I have different ones for different things, okay? So I have another one here, just to prove I've got several, right? And I've got another one. Okay, this is my scribble pad. That's my scribble pad. Okay. But I have a different notebook and pen for different things. Now, you probably go, okay, for someone who's eco-friendly, that's not very economical. But this one is one that I'm keeping because the way I'm writing in it, it's becoming like a reference. Like, you know, when we talk about journaling, your work notebook is like a journal. Okay. So if you, this one's a little bit more work focus. I get this one because, you know, I want to make sure you guys get the best from this. So in this, for example, I've got email, text, how to send it. So I put an example of here, this, because that's what I was working on for that day. But yet in 6 months time or 6 years time, I want to remember how I wrote those emails. I come back to this book and I can flick through and go, there we go. Yes, I've got a to-do list like and ticking off from the one day. But then I've also got, so I know what days I did something. I've also got color codes. Yes, my color codes are on in here. I've got a few titles and a few quotes, and yeah, I've got basically all sorts. But that to me is a reference book. It becomes a greater tool often than a workbook that I've done or from something else, or book that I've read or something I've downloaded, because I'm writing down the things that are relevant to me in that day and for my work. So when it comes down to 6 to 12 months time, I'm sitting down and I'm looking back at how I did this. Then of course I've been journaling those things. I'm giving my brain the break. I'm writing it down in a place that I can come back to, I can always refer to. But also, it's the journaling. Remember, journaling is so good for our mental well-being. And that's why this is my workbook. And to be honest, this one's I started it like actually 2 years ago. So I don't use that often. But yes, I actually started this one 2 years ago. But that's what I mean. It's not always something that you have to feel obligated to. In fact, my daily gratitude journal, that's a different story. That's a daily thing. Like I say, I've got them for everything. But again, each one is available to me to come back to. And that's why I keep them very separate. And I have these pockets for it, because also that works for me. I cannot stand my brain. Okay, I'm dyslexic on the ADHD line. I cannot stand this mess and disorder. So having a notebook for my gratitude, my morning journaling, that really works. To prove it, that's last year's. Again, so I've got them to keep. I can go back through and see the personal journey I've made. I've got the workbook, like I say, for what I'm keeping for my work notes. Like I said, color codes and all sorts of that. I've got my scribble pad, which, yep, that pretty much can go in the recycling. So again, I don't use that often, but sometimes I need to write things down as I'm doing them. This is for one of my courses that I'm doing that will become relevant later. And this one is one I always keep if I'm going out and about, because it's a nice little notebook with a little clipboard on. So if I was meeting with a client or somebody, or I'm going into some sort of presentation or meeting, then of course this is nice and easy for me to hold, to make a few notes on, and of course then carry with me. But again, that notebook, I think my mum gave me for Christmas. That's the second one I put in there, and I bought this in 2019. So again, it's not saying you have to do something every day and fix yourself. It's basically giving yourself the tools that work for you. I find pen and paper allows my brain to debunk and gives me the sort of system and order. So I know, if you said to me, where would I find my color codes? I know exactly which notebook. If you can tell me what I was grateful for a year ago, I know exactly which notebook. Okay. And that's the purpose of it. When we're looking at our wellness at work, we've got to look at how we work personally. What works for you? My job is being with my clients. So I'm always in different places. Obviously, some days I'm at Pfizer. These thoughts, get this in there, these thoughts are my own, not Pfizer's, before anyone says anything. But when I'm at Pfizer, I have my Pfizer work, and I actually have a separate notebook for Pfizer, because it's a company and a corporate. It's not my business. I have my business sat on my desk right here. Okay. And that's how I keep different boundaries, which those boundaries help me perform my best, because when I'm at one, I'm not at the other, which is why you'll notice there's certain days I'm very rarely online, because those days I'm with clients or already occupied. Okay, guys, so I've realized I've gone on for longer than I wanted to, nearly half an hour, but hopefully there's been a few tidbits there for you. My advice to you is to jump off this live. Take the time to look at your diary, your calendar, and how you're working. Take a reflection on what is the suck, okay? Whether it's a certain amount of time, whether it's the fact you're meeting to meeting, and then look at how to make those little adjustments to help you feel better about your day. Then, of course, you can take that a little further and do block timing over your week as a whole, and look at how you spend your time as a whole. Remember, it doesn't have to be equal, but if you're not doing something for you, then you need that. Add that into your week. It may feel like hard work, like you've got to let go, but you're going to feel so much more valuable in what you do at work as what you do out of work, that actually you'll perform harder, faster, and you'll enjoy the journey more. Guys, thank you for those who have joined me this afternoon. If you found this useful, obviously let me know your thoughts, comments, and questions. I know there's a couple of you online. Of course, I will be back next week. Otherwise, I wish you all a valuable and wonderful week.